Hi boys and girls, how are you today? You ready for another story? Great. Okay, the first one is David and Goliath. David was a shepherd and helped his father in taking care of his sheep. As David watched the sheep, he also became very skilled in using his sling. He learned how to throw stones at lions to protect the sheep. His brothers were soldiers in the army, and one day he brought them their lunches. "Who dares to fight me?" shouted the giant Goliath. He was over 9 feet tall and carried heavy weapons. "Ho, ho, ho," laughed Goliath, for he knew nobody dared to fight him. He could see how all the soldiers in Israel's army were afraid of him. David's brothers too, were very afraid. "Don't be afraid," David said. "I will fight the giant for you." The king of Israel could see how David was not afraid like all his soldiers were. Therefore, he ordered to give David his armour and weapons. But they were too heavy for David, and he took them off again. The only thing David took with him was his sling. David crossed the brook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He picked up 5 smooth stones, and one of them he put in his sling. Then he walked towards Goliath. "Ah!" Goliath stood tall and strong, looking towards David. "Ha ha ha!" the giant shouted. "Do you think I am a dog? Is that why you have come after me with a little sling?" David answered, "You depend on your own strength and weapons, but I trust in God, and I know that God will give me the victory." Goliath just laughed even louder than before. David then ran towards the giant while swinging his sling round and round. David set off the stone and it hit Goliath right between his eyes. Goliath stopped laughing. The stone cracked his skull and Goliath crashed face down on the ground. David had defeated Goliath with a sling and a stone. When the Philistines saw what had happened to their hero, they started running away. But Israelites sang and danced with joy. They had won, and David was now a great hero. And you can find that story in the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now the next story is Daniel and the scary lions. Daniel worked for the king of Babylon. The king liked Daniel very much and said, "No one is working as hard and good as Daniel. I want him to have the best job in my kingdom." This made the king's other servants very angry and jealous, so they decided to set a trap for Daniel. Daniel loved God very much, so he prayed to God 3 times a day. Then the evil servants had an idea. They went to the king and said, "We think there should be a new law. No one can pray to anyone else than the king." The king liked the plan and made this new law. But Daniel kept on praying to God. Daniel knew the men were watching him, but he was not afraid and knew it was more important to pray to God than follow the new law the king had made. Daniel was still kneeling down and praying to God every day. The servants laughed. They knew their plan had worked. The evil men went quickly to the king and said, "Oh, great king! Sadly, it seems that Daniel is praying to his God, not to you." Now the king was very sad, for he liked Daniel, but he also knew he could not go back on his law. So the king sent out his soldiers to arrest Daniel. The soldiers took Daniel, and as punishment they threw him into the lion's den, filled with scary lions. Roar! The lions roared. During the night, the king could not sleep. He tossed and turned and did not drink or eat anything, as he was thinking all the time about the wild lions and poor Daniel. Go and find Daniel. Roar! Early in the morning, the king rushed out to the lion's den and called, "Daniel, are you there?" "Yes," said Daniel. "God has sent his angel and the lions did not harm me." The king was very happy and ordered Daniel to be pulled up from the den. Then he sent out a message to the whole kingdom of Babylon. It said, "Daniel's God is the best and true God in the world. Pray to him instead, not to me." And you can find that story in the book of Daniel, chapter 6. Now, one more story for today. Jonah and the big fish. There was a man named Jonah. God spoke to Jonah, "Go to the big city of Nineveh. The people there are doing bad things. Tell them to stop this. I will forgive them." But Jonah was angry. He did not like the people in Nineveh. He went to the harbour instead and jumped on a boat that was going to Spain, far away from Nineveh. But it was not a good plan to try and run away from God, because God will always come and find you if you get lost. During the night, God sent a furious storm to rise over the sea. "Help!" screamed all the sailors. "Oh no," said Jonah. "This is my entire fault. I was not listening to what God told me to do. Now, throw me into the sea." The sailors looked at each other. Then they threw Jonah into the sea. Splash! The men on the boat were safe, but poor Jonah was sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into the sea. Just when Jonah thought all was over, God sent a big fish to rescue him. It swallowed him with one big gulp. Jonah slid all the way down the belly of the fish. Inside the fish, it was so dark. It was like being inside a tomb. For 3 days and nights, Jonah stayed inside the enormous creature. Sitting there in the darkness, he started to sing and pray to God. He asked God to forgive him. God had not forgotten Jonah. Therefore, he made the fish spit Jonah up on the seashore on the 3rd day. "Now I am ready to listen," said Jonah, as he thanked God for helping him. God reminded Jonah about his job, and finally he went to Nineveh. He warned the people in the city and told them what God had said. People listened to Jonah and asked God to forgive them. Therefore, God forgave the people and did not destroy the city. And boys and girls, that story is found in the book of Jonah, chapters 1 to 4. I hope you enjoyed those stories today. We'll see you again tomorrow, ready for the next one. Bye.